Hey, welcome to Genre Exposure, a film podcast. Join us as we explore the wide world of cinema, broaden our horizons one movie at a time. I'm one of your hosts, Dustin, and as usual, I'm here with Michael.
Hello.
And Jason.
Hey, everyone.
For the first time of 2022, what's up, guys? How ya doing?
Okay, so far, but it's early in the year yet, so we'll see what the year holds.
Yeah.
I kind of just do, clean slate when that year rolls over. So we'll see what happens.
It's like nothing matters that came before.
Whatever.
Who are you? Why are we here? This is not my beautiful house.
You guys totally didn't bash a Sono movie last time, so I don't know what happened. No.
I don't think I bashed it.
And I definitely didn't hold a grudge.
Oh, God, it's going to be all Sono movies from here on.
So today we are starting off our first theme block, which we have introduced. If you listen to our bonus episode, we're going to be doing Giallo films for Giallo January.
Giallo.
Yes.
Very excited about it. We will probably spill into February doing those, but that's fine because Giallos are awesome.
Giallo February. It's fine. It's
It
good.
doesn't quite have the same ring.
Well,
But who needs it?
We're kicking it off with Michael's pick from 1972, Death Walks at Midnight.
Yeah.
But first, like always, let's warm up a little bit and talk about what we have been watching.
what have we been watching?
Dustin and I both watched Giallo. What'd you watch?
Oh, you did
No, I've
the
got some
same
stuff
movie?
to talk about.
You told me you were going to do...
I changed my mind.
Fine.
It's Dustin the Contrarian.
Okay. Then I'll go last because I did.
All right, I'll go.
I watched a couple Giallo.
There's something else I really
Gialli.
wanted to talk about, so...
It's probably Luciano.
All right, I got one to talk about. I watched a movie from 2015 called Headless.
Okay. Never heard of it.
Yeah, it's one of those indie gore pictures. It's
It's a snuff film.
Is it extreme, like extreme horror? Or?
it wants to be.
Was it on 8mm?
No. Although it was made like it was a lost film from the late 70s. That was the conceit. And of course it looked nothing like that.
Did it have a bad filter?
Every now and then. Whenever they did and I'm air quoting here, whenever they did the real changes, it would look scratchy for a few minutes and then it would go back to kind of normal. After unearthing the lost slasher film from 1978 in the movie Found, this is a different movie by the same people, which I've also seen. It was pretty good. But Found came out in 2012, and Headless was a movie featured in that movie Found. Okay.
Very meta.
So this is like an indie cinematic universe.
Sort of, yeah.
Okay.
The now grown-up skull-masked boy abducts and tortures helpless women. Now he needs one more victim. Will her blonde-haired head end up as the killer's latest trophy?
Evil dies tonight.
Evil dies tonight. It's a low-budget gore film.
Tomorrow. Evil dies tomorrow.
For what it is, it actually isn't that bad if you like this sort of thing. Like, there's some pretty decent effects. Some they linger on too long. Of course, the plot is threadbare. It's the same thing we've seen before. I can't hate it, though. But I'm also kind of a gore hound, so,
Do I need to see Found to appreciate...
No, you do not.
Okay.
You do not. But Found is actually a much better movie than this. And it makes the list of those disturbing movies that people have all the time.
Oh.
Cool.
I never agree with those, usually.
Some of them, yes, and some no. But again, what disturbs someone may not disturb the next person.
It's true.
Which is definitely a theme block we should do at some point.
I
I'm
want
gonna
to do
bring-
that very soon, actually.
I'm going to bring It's a Wonderful Life to that one.
I got some picks for that one. Can I just curate the whole block? Is that cool?
It's our host takeover.
Anyway, if you dig that sort of stuff, the low-budget gore stuff, it's streaming on...
That was my other question. Where can I
it's
watch
on Tubi.
it? Tubi keeps hitting it in there with the...
They've got some good stuff now.
Surprisingly solid.
They
Yep.
really do.
I hate the commercial thing, but
Yeah, it's like a movie's only like an hour 20, but with the commercials it's like a 145 or something.
I can't be too mad at them
It's
for
free.
it, though, because
Yeah.
it's free.
You know what I noticed is they have every season of Dark Shadows.
That's cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw that too. I thought about going back and rewatching those, but
Tiffany
Oh,
and I
God,
have
there's a lot of
debated
those.
about like doing the whole thing, and we're like, oh, it's a commitment though.
you gotta just watch the highlights. Watch the Barnabas episodes. That's all you really need.
Well, I noticed on there they've divided it, so they have the chunk that's like before Barnabas, and then the chunk that's like once he shows up.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I take that back. It's not on Tubi. It's on Plex.
The fuck is Plex?
You don't know Plex?
No.
Okay, Plex is actually a pretty good resource for horror films too. They have the same thing. It's the same ad setup, But they actually have a lot of good stuff.
I thought Plex was the thing that you have your own server and then like people put
you can
pirated
stream
shit
like
on it.
computer to TV or something.
No.
Oh.
Did they go like straight or something?
It may be that sort of thing. They may have gone straight.
Because people are always like, it's on my Plex account, and I'm like, it's a fucking pirated movie, man. And they're like,
okay.
they're
Well,
like,
it's
yeah,
not like
well, you want to watch it? It's on my Plex account.
It's
I'm
pretty
like,
much
no.
it's pretty much a Tubi now.
I don't want to sit
You know,
there
that's
and-
kind of like Crunchyroll. They started as like a pirated anime site, and then they went legit.
Yeah, right. But check it out. They got some good stuff on there.
Cool.
You go.
All right, I've got a double header because there's two I really want to talk about.
A double Headless.
Yeah. So this is jumping back into last year, but I really want to talk about both of these. It was my first trip back to the movie theater since COVID times.
Yeah, huh?
And I made it a big deal and saw two movies that day.
Okay.
Because one I really wanted to see, one I didn't really care if I saw, but we'll get into
Are you
it.
talking about both of them?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll try to be brief.
He's cheating again.
I'm cheating. Yep. Start the year off right.
I'm gonna do two. I'm gonna do two too.
Oh,
Fuck
fuck.
It.
Okay.
Fuck it. You can do two as well.
Fuck you,
I stick to
Jason.
the rules, okay? Anyway, please continue.
Lawful good.
Lawful good alignment.
He's a paladin.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first one, and I feel like I need to talk about it because I love Ghostbusters. I went and saw Ghostbusters Afterlife. Mm-hmm. I championed it a ton in the trailers. People were, hating on it already. Mm-hmm. Understandable because that remake was pretty bad. And
Yeah, that's awful.
before anyone wants to write in and say anything, it has nothing to do with the fact that it was for women.
No, it's just
I've
bad
seen
script.
all four of them be excellent in other movies. The problem is the script, and you could take any
Or
four
lack thereof.
any four dudes or any four just great, amazing actors and throw them in with that script, and it would still be shit.
Right.
So Afterlife, I had a lot of hope for. It seemed like they were doing everything right. They were trying to, honor the other two films. They were trying to, naturally extend that story and kind of do like the Next Generation sort of deal. Mm-hmm. I really didn't like it,
Yeah.
to be honest.
I have like zero interest in it personally. But how come you didn't like it?
Have either of you seen it? Or
No, I don't care.
I still haven't been to the theater.
I mean, our audience might care about spoilers and stuff, so you may want to stay away from
To
that.
avoid spoilers, it just fell really flat to me, and like it seemed so paper thin. Like they spend a ton of the time doing like the setup for the new people, which is cool because you need to give them their time to grow and build. But it ends up being like the film feels like 80% like kind of Amblin-y style family film,
Which isn't Ghostbusters.
which is in a modern take too.
That's not Ghostbusters.
And then like 20% like actual Ghostbuster film, where it's like they bust one ghost, and then the next thing you know, they're ramping up to the final confrontation, which is real. It was real threadbare. Like they have a villain that's like the villain behind things, kind of
Well, I heard that the third act is basically the first Ghostbusters movies just remade.
done at like double speed.
Yeah.
They really rushed through it, and there's no gravitas, and just those moments in the first one where it's like when Gozer steps out for the first time, and it's such this big moment. Mm-hmm. And they do that kind of thing here again, and it's just like there's no spectacle to it. There's no build up, no things.
Is it another Remember This movie? Remember that? You loved this when you were a kid. Remember that?
It is very much so, and
Fuck that
I guess
shit.
I'm getting burned out on that. And
I
like,
hate it.
they talk
I
about
hate it.
like
It's so
the
lazy.
legacy film with the legacy characters, where you have the old people and set up a new situation. And
I was actually thinking about that today. I had to go pick up my groceries or whatever, and I was just randomly on a movie thought, and I was thinking about like the fact that the the new like Leatherface trailer dropped, and it's that same shit.
yeah, we're only going to do the first one. Sally's back.
And then I got to thinking about like, okay, when studios actually took a risk and they're like, well, let's just try to make a new killer. Mm-hmm. And then you get
Or
like,
give us a new movie, new heroes, anything.
and then you
know?
get like Hatchet
Yeah,
comes out.
sure.
Yes, it's derivative, but
It's fun though.
all slashers
At least
are.
it's new. At least it's someone different.
But you get a cool new killer now. Mm-hmm. Like Victor Crowley's fun. He's cool. Mm-hmm. And then I got to thinking of like Behind the Mask, the rise of.
Oh God, I love that movie. Yeah,
Like
It's so good.
when someone actually stops and's like, let's not do the same thing we've always done.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or let's turn what we've done on its head and do something different. But it seems like
that's a risk.
It
Yeah.
is a risk.
They don't want to
And
take a risk.
Instead, you get like that same like, let's play it safe and stick faces that you're used to, and oh, you loved this, so let's put this in here. And I'm like, why?
That's my biggest gripe. I haven't seen the movie, but from the trailer, it doesn't look anything like
Yeah.
Ghostbusters.
And none of the jokes really land the same. And they do this. This is another pet peeve I've noticed in modern films is they'll have a character who their thing is that they're a podcaster. And maybe, I don't know, I'm biased now because I am a podcaster, but it feels so inauthentic and just like tossed in there.
Yeah.
And it doesn't build or contribute to anything. And like you could pull it out. And the kid they do it with is like, they're trying to set him up as the new Ray, where he like knows all the ghost occult stuff. It could just be a kid that's into the occult. We don't need like the podcaster angle to make that be a thing. It's just very frustrating. It was very sweet and like pulled at my heart at the end whenever you have like all the original Ghostbusters. And I don't think it's much a spoiler to say.
I think it's been out long enough. People know.
Egon shows back up as like a ghost, and they kind of they did it right. I thought like they don't ever make him speak; they just have like the CG ghost version of him. And it was nice to see like all four of them lined up together, smiling.
But was it Sebastian Shaw or was it Hayden Christensen? Which one was it? Which version did you see?
Yeah. So.
He side-eyed me.
Didn't care for it too much. They kind of sequel bait like another one.
Of course.
I don't know if I would even go for the next one if they do it. I don't know.
It made money, so they're going to do it.
I was very disappointed, and I was like ready and like cheering for them for it to be good.
Well, they'll do another one, and they'll take a chance to do something a little bit different, then everyone will hate it. So.
Yeah. So there's that. Boom, done. And so the other thing is my friend Tyler wanted to go see The Eternals, which I had zero interest in. Most recent Marvel film. Well, I guess now the Spider-Man one's the most recent.
I know like jack shit about the Eternals.
And I know you're going to say, Jason, this is like a contrarian thing. Everyone hated the Eternals. Mm-hmm. I had no expectations going in. Mm-hmm. It was really just a thing of like, we hadn't hung out in a bit. We used to go see all the Marvel movies together until like COVID and everything else like stamped that out. He wanted to see it. And I was like, you know what, man, let's just go see it, hang out, watch it. I'm just going to live at the... Cineplex, I guess, today.
Right. How bad could it be, right?
If nothing else, it'll be like a big, bright CG thing for like 2 or 3 hours. Surprisingly, I really, really loved it.
Okay.
It may be one of my favorite of all the Marvel movies.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm excited. That one drops on Disney Plus.
Like the 12th, I think.
Yeah, I'm actually excited for that.
It's universally reviled, I guess, and a lot of people say it's the very worst one, but I really, really loved it. It's damn near 3 hours, so it's super long. You'll hate it for that, Jason. But they go so hard on like building this big mythos of the characters, and they're not even very popular Marvel characters. They are ones that are interesting, I think, and I've enjoyed their comics. And they're Jack Kirby brainchilds, and I love all of his stuff. And I wonder sometimes how well those will adapt into film because he has such like big ideas with a lot of his characters.
Psychedelic and weird, yeah.
But they really capture like the scope of the Celestials and these huge like planet-sized beings that they serve, and they take the time to do a lot of flashbacks and kind of build up how, like, they existed through different histories throughout the Earth, and their, like, interactions with humans is what spawned, like, the mythology of the gods. Because that is kind of their thing. A lot of the characters are named, like, a certain god, and it was, like, their interactions made the legends of that god.
Okay.
So, yeah, man, I really liked it.
I really like Kumail Nanjiani as well. Mm-hmm. I know you're not as big a fan of him, I think.
When I saw the trailer, it like really repulsed me. But once I saw him in the film, kind of organically with everyone else, it was great.
I really like him. I've always liked his comedy. I also loved The Big Sick. Did you see that?
No.
It is great.
I think I'm off the superhero train.
You were never on.
Yeah, I was. I watched all the Marvel movies. Okay, I'll tell you what. I watched all of them. I could not watch Iron Man 2 because it was boring as fuck. I stopped like halfway through.
You didn't even make it to Iron Man 3, which is way worse.
No, I watched Iron Man 3.
Why?
Because everyone said it was so good.
Wrong.
I didn't like it at all, personally. I didn't watch Ant-Man 2.
That one was pretty good.
Because I saw Ant-Man 1, and it was pretty much Iron Man again.
They all are the same.
They're all the same, and that's one of my problems. The last one I watched was, probably, what was the last Avenger movie?
Endgame?
Yeah. I watched that one. And I watched WandaVision. But that's it. That's all I've seen.
Well, The Eternals, I thought it was great. Good action, super fun.
I'm off the train.
It's very standalone, too. So, Jason, if you would like to give it a chance, there's
you don't have to see all the other fucking movies and shows.
They reference, I think, the Thanos snap, and that's about all you really get of, like, continuity-wise. It's pretty standalone.
All right. Well, maybe I'll check it out one day. Michael.
All right. I watched gialli films since it's Giallo January.
Uh-huh.
I watched two. One's a tie-in, but the other one that I watched that I really, really loved was Torso.
Oh, I love this movie.
Torso's a good one.
Who did that torso? I'm not prepared.
Sergio Martino.
I thought it was Martino.
Martino's great.
So some things that kind of crossed my mind while I was watching Torso. Awesome creepy kills.
Oh, yeah.
Like, really creepy killer in that. But, like, I found myself noticing how much of a feminist film it was.
I can see that.
And then I started thinking about a lot of Giallo films, and they have a lot of feminist angles. And I started wondering, was that accidental? Or...
Well, they also equally kind of get the rap of being, like, misogynistic because there's so much violence towards women.
Exactly. So that's what I kind of wondered. Like, but in Torso, you have basically incels. Like a whole bunch of incels hanging around these beautiful models. But they're the ones in control all the time. Mm-hmm. They're the ones, like... There are probably people who would say that that film is misogynistic because of the fact that it's always showing, like, naked women. Mm-hmm. But they're choosing to do this. Like, their characters...
They have a lot of agency.
Their characters are choosing, like, we're going to sunbathe together.
Right.
Like, we're just... That's what we're going to do. Or, I'm going to wear this because I want to. Mm-hmm. Not, like... I felt like they weren't being objectified, but, like, you see the men gawking over them, and they're the ones that you're like, good God.
Yeah.
You know, like,
right.
They're always making snide remarks and everything.
It's kind of like holding a mirror up to the audience and saying,
kind of.
Don't do this.
But then I wonder, you know, but I wonder, like, how much of that is an effect of what current culture is, mm-hmm. and how much of that maybe they were trying to show at the time. I don't know.
Hard to know.
I don't know. But Torso is really solid. Shudder actually has a really great section under their collections of Giallo classics. And I was just going through there, honestly, just looking at something that I thought looked cool.
It's a movie I love so much I bought it twice. Because I had a release from Blue Underground, and I bought that, and then Arrow did a remaster, which I picked up and then passed to you, Jason, my old one.
Yeah.
Nice. It was super fun. I really, really enjoyed it. And then the other one that I watched is a tie-in to our film today, Death Walks at Midnight, but I also watched Death Walks on High Heels.
Which I also watched, and I will now cabbage onto your...
This was also, it's from the same director.
Luciano Ercoli.
Also has the same lead.
Yep, Nieves Navarro, but she's credited as Susan Scott in all of these.
So, I did not choose this one for today because there were some reviews that I had read that it apparently has some material that did not age well at all.
Which happens sometimes with these films.
One being, it did have some blackface in it. Which I'm questioning how much of that, like, I shouldn't say, like, well, how blackface is it, you know, but, like...
Well, to give
Are you saying you don't have a problem with blackface, Michael?
No, I do have a problem.
To give it a little context, in that film, she plays an exotic dancer.
Uh-huh.
And so it's part of one of her acts that she performs.
And it was almost more of an Egyptian type thing she was doing.
But is she wearing a wig made of wind chimes?
Yeah.
Like she does in today's movie.
She actually was, I think.
Oh, well, no, it was very stereotypical, like the wig she had on.
That was a different time.
A little questionable. The part that really, like, sank it for me, when I was like, oh, I could kind of see one way or the other, is she goes backstage and her boyfriend comes to see her, and he's like, oh, I love it when you're all black like this.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, dude, no.
Kind of... Like, had that line not been in it, you probably could have brushed over that and been like, I'm not entirely sure.
That made it awkward.
Yeah, but that really did. So that aside, blackface aside, it was pretty damn good.
Dude, I loved it. I thought it was amazing.
It was pretty awesome. And I watched it by accident because I forgot which one I said we were watching. I was like, are we watching Death Walks at Midnight or Death Walks on High Heels? Fuck it, I'll watch them both.
Cover your bases.
Yeah, so that one is streaming on Tubi as well.
Has a good twist, I think.
Yeah, a lot of the reviews online get mad at the amount of red herrings that Ercoli throws in. Mm-hmm. I love
it, man. That's so typical of Gialli, though.
I don't mind them. That's the point.
I like to get lost and I think, did this happen or did I dream it? Or
I felt that way with this movie.
Me too.
How many Giallo films... now, granted, we're going to talk about this when we get into our main film, but, like, that's just the point of Giallo.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's any mystery. There's always red herrings.
It's like...
Some have more than others, but...
Like, read Agatha Christie and tell me there's not, like, 10 red herrings in it.
Yeah.
It's just part of it, and I don't understand why people are judging these films and saying, like, oh, it's a silly plot. These are just silly. And I'm like,
I think it's fun, and I think it's fun because most gialli, like, they challenge you as a viewer to kind of try to solve the mystery as you go. Yeah. But often it's so imperceptible.
They cheat, like a lot of mysteries do. They don't give you all the information, and then they info dump everything in the last 15 minutes.
So much fun.
So, yeah, Death Walks on High Heels. You could probably watch it as a double feature.
Oh, yeah, I did.
I did, too. But I did it next day. But, yeah, they were back-to-back for me, so...
All right, so we're talking about Death Walks at Midnight, 1972, directed by Luciano Ercoli. It was the third gialli that he made. He did first, was it Forbidden Photos of a Lady Under Suspicion? Above Suspicion, yep.
I liked that title.
It's a good title.
It had a really good title.
Gialli have the best titles.
Then he did Death Walks on High Heels, and then Death Walks at Midnight. Some interesting things about just chaining through the three that he worked on. All three he collaborated with Ernesto Gastaldi, who's the screenwriter on all of these.
Yes.
All three include Nieves Navarro, credited in all three as Susan Scott. In Forbidden Photos, I think she's a side character, so she's not like the prominent one, but then in both the other films, she is the leading star.
Cool.
And they actually were married.
Oh.
I think when I looked it up, they were married in 72, so it was either before or during or after Death Walks at Midnight. And they actually stayed together till his death in 2015.
Oh, wow.
Pretty cool.
That's awesome.
I want to start off, she's a badass.
She's amazing.
She's one of the best things about this movie.
Oh.
I'm going to just throw it out there.
Oh.
What was that?
Really?
Huh?
What?
I said she's one of the best things about this movie.
There's a lot of other good things about this
There
movie.
are, but she's one of the best.
Okay.
I'll throw this out there, see what you guys
I'm
think of
agreeing
this.
with him, and he's like,
You're not agreeing enough.
Maybe one of the most beautiful actresses to ever exist.
she's very pretty.
I don't know.
I mean, she's...
Fuck you, Michael.
Captain Kronos level Carolyn Monroe?
Oh, Carolyn Monroe.
I think she can compete. I think she's up there.
Star Crash Carolyn Monroe. No, I mean, she's very beautiful. She's got that classical Italian beauty thing going for her. I'm assuming she's Italian. Maybe she's not. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
An interesting thing.
European, let's say that.
We'll get into it more as we talk about the film, but her character is very strong, very forthright. We're talking about like female characters with agency. She has a ton of agency, and she takes no shit from anybody in this film. And really, in High Heels, it's maybe a little less, but it's the same archetype to a degree. And I actually read when I was looking up about this, that was a like style of character that Ercoli really liked, that he wanted to work into his films. Apparently, it was prevalent in I think they were called photo novels, and they were kind of like if you know like a movie comic where they have like the stills of the movie, and they make it like a comic. They took real photos and then portrayed a story with it.
Okay.
And I guess at the time there were a lot where they had these like very strong female characters as the lead in them, and that was a big inspiration on him for this film.
Cool. Did this movie also lead to the creation of the fumettis, which were the black and white Italian comics, usually featuring female heroines?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
I don't do my research on anything.
Maybe
I read that somewhere.
Looped in or connected in some way.
Yeah, I've
sure.
seen a few of those, and they're pretty cool.
Before we get too deep, we are talking about Giallo. It is Giallo January. We're not going to do a big breakdown on that genre because we've already done that in a prior episode.
It's worth revisiting, though.
But we need to clarify some shit.
Well, first let me say, if you want the big breakdown, we did it in, I think it's episode 3, I want to say.
Fifth chord.
And we covered the 5th chord. So if you were like, what the hell is Giallo? What are you talking about? Jump back to that episode. At least listen to the first half. It'll set you right.
Yes.
But here's some shit we need to clarify. Because some other shit's gone down.
In the year,
In the year since we recorded that. And there's been a lot of people coming out calling fucking movies Giallo films, and they're not fucking Giallo.
Does that irritate you, Michael?
Yes.
What? Good example.
All right. So Malignant. A lot of people, and a lot of reviewers who supposedly know this shit, started calling Malignant Giallo.
I think, and it's not to be derisive, a lot of people don't know what Giallo is that think they do.
This is true.
I don't want to be like on my horse about that, but
It shares some similarities with Giallo, but it is not a Giallo.
It is not a Giallo at all.
like as much as you would want to say Malignant's inspired by Giallo, I think even more so you would say a film like Basket Case, right?
I could see that.
Has much more of a bearing.
Frank Henenlotter type thing, yeah.
But I think I saw somebody talk about this online, and I wish I could credit who said it. That rhymed. But when people start saying, like, well, let's make a genre called supernatural Giallo, that defeats the purpose.
Right.
And when we put names to things, we do it for a reason. Because if I say to you that I like music, and you're like, okay, what kind of music? And I'm like, I like heavy metal. And they're like, oh, so you like jazz? Like, no. I just told you what I like. Because those names that we put on something define it and give you...
it's categorical.
Yeah.
Even then, heavy metal isn't enough.
No.
You have to go down the subcategories.
Is it death metal, black metal,
thrash, progressive, melodic death.
The names that we use to describe something mean something.
Mm-hmm.
So Giallo is a very specific typeset.
Right, and we established that in the Fifth Chord episode where we said, there's a certain number of qualities, and really it's once you have so many, that's when you kind of like are truly a Giallo in a lot of ways.
Yes. Briefly, what are some of these qualities?
I mean, one of the biggest things is it's a mystery.
Yep. Okay.
A thriller mystery as your central thing. It usually involves a main character that gets swept up in some kind of incident, and they are kind of plunged into the role of detective for their own sake.
Right.
To work out what's happening. There's often a killer, usually with black gloves, but not always. It was spawned in Italy, so they're often set in such locations or other European things. There's very frequently a focus on like higher life, high society. Our lead in Death Walks at Midnight is a fashion model.
Right.
It's a very typical protagonist for these kind of things.
And style is very important.
Style is very important. Visual style, from the aesthetics of the way rooms are laid out, the use of color. The use of music too, I think. There's a very certain like musical tone a lot of these have.
And I think the reason that I get so frustrated about it is because you can call anything whatever you want. But like when you're discussing a film and you categorize it poorly, you're doing it a disservice.
Yeah, you're expecting one thing when you go to watch it, and then it's not.
And potentially you're misleading other people in a way too. Maybe not intentionally so, but...
Like, what I would love to see is, as like Jason made the joke about saying maybe he'll choose Suspiria, which is such a common Giallo, and Maya was like, fuck you.
What do you mean joke?
Yeah.
Which we established on that earlier episode. That's absolutely not a Giallo in no way you want to put it.
And I think that a lot of people don't realize that Giallo and gialli films go beyond the main four directors that you might know. There's a lot more out there, and this is a whole subgenre. Like and granted, we only talk about several because those are the best.
And it's not just Italy either. Spain had a big movement of these at the same time in the 70s.
I like to think of them as like Italian Agatha Christie. Maybe less...
Sure.
Oh, and the other trait we should probably just bring up again, because it relates to this, like talking about Malignant and stuff like that. There may be elements of supernatural in the story, but kind of the key thing is that by the end, none of that is actually like a thing. That's all just, it might be like a false story or a trick or something. In the end, it's usually just a grounded, you have a killer. There might be some weirdness, but it's never overtly supernatural, I would say.
Right. Exactly.
I'm off my soapbox.
Okay.
And the other film that got tagged that last year was Last Night in Soho.
Yeah.
Which same thing. My thing is like both that and Malignant, the thing people say is like, oh, it's got the lavish visuals.
It's not enough.
And my thing is like one element isn't enough, because if that's enough, is Speed Racer, the live action Speed Racer, a Giallo? It has lavish visuals.
Or the Hammer films Giallo,
When you do that, it makes a slippery slope where like anything can be anything, and then it's like why categorize things to start with then?
Right.
I'm sure there will be people who will disagree with me and say that I'm just being pedantic about it, but
which is fine because it's okay to be wrong. We could be wrong. Who knows?
I think you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't take the time to try to figure out what this genre is and see all the cool stuff that's in it.
And that's part of the charm, because every time I go to one, I know what to expect, but then every time they also kind of do their own little twist on the formula.
Which is one of the things I really, really liked about Death Walks at Midnight.
Yes, let's talk about it.
So with that out of the way, let's dig in.
Basic premise, our heroine, Dustin, what's her name?
Valentina.
Who has her own theme song at the beginning.
Yeah.
Valentina.
I loved that song.
That was great.
She agrees. She's a fashion model, or just a model. But she agrees to take a new experimental drug and be photographed, and basically have her experience on this drug chronicled and photographed for money.
By her friend Gio Baldi, who runs a newspaper.
So she takes this drug, and it all starts out as you would expect, and she's kind of tripping or whatever, until she sees a murder happen. And
it's like a vision of a murder.
Yeah,
it's
a vision
like
of a murder. And can I say, this is the coolest fucking murder weapon.
Oh my god.
It's a fucking spiked gauntlet.
There's a ton of stuff I want to talk about just in this opening scene. So first, yes, the spiked gauntlet is an amazing kill weapon.
But as she starts to, I don't want to say freak out, but as she starts to freak out, and realize what she's seeing, her friend just continues to take pictures upon pictures and never, like, at once says, like, is this really happening?
Well, also he violates her trust because she doesn't want her face shown, right?
Right.
So he puts a blindfold on her, like a sleeping mask.
And they say
thing.
no names.
No names. He repeatedly says her name because they're recording it too.
Yeah.
And takes the blindfold off. But also, she's so concerned about no one seeing her face, but she's right in front of a huge wall-sized picture of herself.
Well, she's trusting him, and I think there is a sub-theme in this whole film about, like, the sleaziness of the press and, doing anything to get the story.
Sure.
Do you guys not have a giant picture of yourself? Like,
I have a giant picture of you.
I remember when I took that picture for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, things I wanted to talk about this opening scene. The very start of it, I think it's amazing, like, the aesthetics of it, because it's really just Valentina kind of walking the street and going into her, like, apartment, penthouse place. But just the way it's shot and the music, and then when she gets in her, like, penthouse, and the way it's laid out, and just the set and the scenery design is like...
Yeah.
Oh, it's just the charm and the, like, visual flair of it all.
Why did we stop having circular beds?
Yeah, it's all very Art Nouveau.
It just washes over me, and I hate to do the thing where you, like, shit on modern films, but I'm just like, you could watch 1,000 modern movies, and they wouldn't have the, like, charm and sense of design that this one, like, scene in this film has.
Right.
It's very... I don't want to say it's dated because it's almost like a fixture in its own place. Like, it almost exists outside of time. You could look at it and go, well, that's super 70s. But it's not. Like, it's just Giallo. Like, you look at it and it's just, it's a Giallo.
Purely distilled. Like, if you needed to show someone, like, what it is, boom, just, like, show that scene.
Yeah. And there's even the fun fiber optic light lamp.
Yeah, someone I went to Spencer's Gifts.
Yeah.
And then the apartment that's across the street, which is where the murder takes place, that's an interesting set too, I think, because it's this weird penthouse that, like, later when they go to explore it, it's a long hallway, and there's doors off it, and we don't see the whole extent of it, but on the one side, the two double doors open into the room where the murder happens, and it's just this long, like, rectangular room, stark white, it's got, like, the paneled ceiling, and there's just two thin strips of fluorescent lights that run. It's almost like it's an office building that's been gutted.
That's what I thought it was.
But then at the back of it, there's glass doors that open out onto a little veranda.
Well, it's Italy. You have to, even in the office, you have to take time for your cigarette break and your espresso break. So you want a veranda to do it on.
But it's so visually interesting and striking. And then when you start seeing the murder, it happens in that room. And there's, like, the contrast of, like, as he's bashing her face, the blood is splaying out. And it's hitting all this whiteness. It's gorgeous.
There's a lot of people who that I think if you were to take a younger viewer, like a younger film viewer, that would look at this and go, but the blood looks so cheesy. It's supposed to.
But it's also...
Well, it didn't matter. It wasn't about authenticity. Sorry.
Symbology.
It's about effect.
But like Dustin said, too, you get the contrast of the stark white with the red blood. I mean... Tenebrae did that too, so
sure.
it's, it's a common...
It's a hallmark of this subgenre.
Yeah.
even Savini's blood and Dawn of the Dead didn't look convincing. You know,
Yeah.
it's a comic book.
I get so tired
it doesn't
of
need
that.
to.
I get
It's a
tired of
comic
that
book.
argument, though. Like, it looks so fake. It's art. It's fucking art. Anyway. Curious on Dustin, because...
Well, here's a question I'm going to go ahead and raise right now.
Okay.
So she takes this new drug, which I think was HDR, they were calling
That's the other
it.
thing is I think it's an interesting start because we're just thrown right into this and it's like, all right, I'm going to take this drug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So does this drug, like, give her sensory perception?
Well,
Like,
they
extrasensory perception
say it's
powers?
hallucinogenic. We know that about
Okay.
it.
But she's seeing a murder. It turns out this murder happened 6 months prior, correct?
Yes.
That's a
it's like
later plot development, though. We go for a while where we don't really know that
Not
yet.
too long, but yeah. But anyway, so she sees the vision of this happening, and it happened. So we're getting into, like, supernatural or science fiction territory here a little bit, right?
I've got a comment on it, but I'll save it till we're a little deeper
All
in
right.
the plot.
All right, let's continue.
Hold that question
Sure.
in your mind.
You're going to have to lead this one, because I get lost.
no,
and
okay.
I also
It's a very
watched,
convoluted plot.
But I also watched this one and Death Walks on High Heels so close together
They
that
kinda
I'm
blend.
afraid that I'll put
Yep.
one, that I'll do the wrong movie.
Did your the ones you all watched, was it subtitled?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, mine was too.
I watched it Italian. I had the Blu-ray of both these films, and so
okay.
I
I
did
watched
that.
It was subtitled except for one part where it went very...
It went English. It was dubbed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
it was the cops.
Mine did that too. Yeah.
Yeah. I saw,
But the cops suddenly turned from Italian to, like, very New York.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. I was like, the hell?
I know. That one threw me.
I watched the Arrow, so I guess it was the same print.
And I should say on those Blu-rays, a neat thing. Both films they have an introduction from Gastaldi, the screenwriter.
Cool.
He didn't have too much to say. I felt bad about Midnight because he was very like reserved about it, and it was kind of just like, oh well, this was shot at a time that's very different for most people now. Everyone has cell phones, but no cell phones existed then. You had to go and get like a token and put it in the payphone to make a call. And he's like, but I think you can have fun with it a little bit. And after watching it, I was like, dude, you're selling yourself short. This is a great film. Like, yeah.
But I'm not sure that this film is palatable for a lot of people. I think...
It helps if you're into the whole Giallo thing.
Yeah, I think you kind of got to be a fan of Giallo, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who would watch it and go, no, this is not my thing.
I don't want to know those people.
There's an element of cheese in it, and there's...
And he did say in the intro, which is the thing we should talk about too, a lot of the side characters in this are written to be kind of comedic and kind of add a bit of levity to the situation.
Sure, you see that. Continue through the convoluted plot for us.
Okay, so yes, she has this hallucination. She sees the murder, and the next day, Gio's paper goes to press about it. And rather than the story she thought it was going to be, she is front page, center of the thing, and it says, famous fashion model Valentina tries this drug, has vision of a murder.
Bamboozled.
Yep.
She's pissed.
But I love her reaction. Her reaction is what makes her badass.
Yep. She goes to 0 to 100 immediately.
There's that great smash cut where she's immediately in the guy's office bitching at him.
But, like, as she sees her friend, like, they are getting into an argument about it and everything. Mm-hmm. And then, like, she's leaving, and he's, like, up in the window, being a total jackass to her. And she just fucking picks up a rock off the street and chucks it up there and goes straight through the glass at him.
Yeah, that's great.
I loved it. Like, she just, no question.
Yeah.
Like, fuck you.
Now, I like the guy, Gio, too, because he's always got a cigarette in his mouth, but he never has a lighter.
Yeah, he's always asking, hey, you got a light?
I think that's actually a fun little character.
Mm-hmm. Well, they have an interesting relationship, too, because it seems like there's kind of some romantic chemistry there.
Yeah,
but
there's
then
something there, but they're actually not dating.
Yeah, they're not dating. He's so sleazy and so focused on his work that kind of repulses her. And she has her own guy that she's into, Stefano, which we meet in this segment, too.
I'm Team Gio.
Yeah, I was, too, actually, even though he's kind of a dick. But so Stefano, what we learned about him is they've kind of dated on and off a lot. They talk about, like, why do we never get married? That sort of thing.
Because Stefano can't be tied down.
He's kind of just this brooding dude with a cool motorcycle.
Artist.
Yeah,
He keeps making the same piece of wood with holes in it.
Yeah, he makes wooden sculptures, and I have a note on that actually. All his work was made by an Italian-based Japanese sculptor named Tomonori Toyofuku.
Were the kids his?
I don't know about that.
There's a scene later on where Valentina is hanging out with him, And for some reason, he's keeping 2 Japanese children of a friend of his while he's out of town.
I wondered if I missed something.
And they're like in kimonos and everything.
Yeah.
I wondered if when that scene happened, I was like, did I miss a subtitle somewhere where they're explaining this? No, I did not.
It doesn't really add to the plot. In any
Apparently,
way.
I did not.
I think it's just more color for Stefano and
I
who
guess
he
so. It
is.
shows that family unit thing. They talk about having kids or something at one point. But I wonder if those were his children.
I don't know.
The artist.
Interesting thought that I don't have the answer to.
Well, find out, damn it.
We'll have to loop back around.
The other thing that happens during this also is that the police get in touch with her.
Of course, they
helmed
have to,
by
Giallo.
Inspector Sereno, played by Carlo Gentili. Hope I said that right. I don't know.
It looks right.
He's probably dead. I don't think he's going to come after you.
Wow.
I still want to be respectful.
He was old in that. Don't say wow.
Yeah, but of course there's this whole like media outcry about what happened in this story, and Valentina has her own problems where people are canceling jobs on her because they don't want to be associated with her now. Which is a neat thing too, because that's like a whole subculture thing we could talk about that time, right? Sure. The use of drugs and hallucinogenics and stuff. Mm-hmm. So that's interesting that the film is like pressing on that. But yes,
It's also the time of, female empowerment and that movement. So, of course, you've got to have a strong female character in it.
but Sereno wants to talk to her because the details of this murder that she saw matches a murder that happened.
Yes.
Murder that they have on record. And she is kind of like, trying to get him to do something about it. And there's a lot of this back and forth where he doesn't know if he believes her. He wants to know like how she knows these details that she knows.
Right.
I think that's one of my favorite like common threads amongst a lot of gialli is that there will be a strong female character that will have seen something or know something, and they bring it to the authorities, and the authorities are always like, "Stupid woman,"
Yeah.
It's
Or
always
it's not always. It's often a man too.
Yeah,
especially
but-
like in Argento films and stuff.
And that's kind of one of the things where I think it can sometimes make it like an empowerment film is like, so especially in which another one that I watched over the week, Evil Eye or The Girl Who Knew Too Much.
Love that one.
Like they keep calling her hysterical. Like they're trying to diminish her and put her down. And like, there's no way that she knows what she's talking about.
Yeah.
And in a sense, that's what they're doing to Valentina here is like, no, there's not.
And then the police will use that person to solve the crime for them.
Yeah.
But she's not taking their shit because she's Valentina.
She's
Yeah.
not.
So that's kind of our starting situation. And one thing is that one time while she's out and about, she thinks in the crowd of people that's, just walking around, she sees the killer. So that kind of sets her on this thing of like, well, he's read the article. He knows now.
He's stalking her. And
That
he
I
looks
know.
like a younger Cameron Mitchell with big sunglasses.
Yeah, he's got an interesting look.
Yeah.
And so she's, she tries to get the police to help. They're mixed on whether they believe her or not. She goes to Gio. Gio's like not too helpful about it.
No.
His thing really is just if it develops more, he wants the story. And so she tries to take solace with Stefano, but he also doesn't really believe her either.
Yeah. Kind of dismissive.
He's a douche.
So in the progression of her kind of working through this, in which it is the standard Giallo,
It's very convoluted.
trying to figure things out, we meet some other characters. First, there is a strange man with like long dark hair who kind of just shows up places where she is.
Yeah.
And he's wanting to talk to her, and she's got a bad feeling about him. So every time she's just kind of like runs
Because he
away.
looks like a beatnik.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a Charles Manson type.
Yeah. Yeah. He did have that beatnik vibe, though.
He did.
So that's one of your first setups. Is like, what's this guy? What's he about? What's going on? And then the next thing is it's another woman that shows up. And I believe her name is it Vanessa? I think
Yes.
so. Hope so.
Don't look at me. I don't know. I don't remember their names.
Yeah, it was Vanessa.
Yeah. And she wants to talk to her about the killing because she says that the person that was murdered was her sister.
Yes.
And she wants to... it's a weird scene because she's like, hey, just get in the car and we'll talk about it because I don't want to talk about it in public.
Right.
And I'm thinking as I watch it, like, well, that's kind of a dumb idea to just get in someone's car like that.
Yeah.
She does, and predictably, they just drive off, and she starts taking her somewhere. And where she takes her is to an insane asylum.
Naturally. That's where I'd go.
And we learned that supposedly the killer was caught and has been held here.
Yes.
For reasons of insanity. Mm-hmm. And so she wants Valentina to kind of just go meet the killer, look at him, and confirm it was who she saw in her vision. So that's kind of your first standard thing, and you think, well, maybe the mystery is going to be like how did she, find out about this, I guess. But when she gets there and sees the killer, quote unquote, it's not the guy she saw.
Right.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. So first thing, we're like, oh, that's not adding up. And then weirdly, Vanessa ditches her, which is funny because she turns around and she's just like, whoop, gone.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of an awkward scene where she tries to leave and goes the wrong way, and she gets in that wing of where there's just like patients out and about, and they all start being really creepy toward her.
Right. And there's like a disturbing lack of guards here.
Yeah. And eventually one of the doctors show up, and I don't know if I remember his name either. He's not quite important enough, really, but he's just like a third tier suspect.
Well, is he the guy with the crutches?
Yeah, he had the crutches.
Yeah.
And he kind of like quickly dissuades her away and has her leave. But as she's leaving, she doesn't notice it, but you, the viewer, will notice in the background on one of the like statue bust things that are there is the iron glove.
Yes.
It makes a point to kind of like
So then it's like,
yeah.
What about this doctor then? That's weird. So when she gets back outside, she just by chance happens on a guy driving with a van, and she bums a ride with him.
Yeah.
And he almost immediately is like perving on her, being super weird.
Yes.
We get a kind of a neat like car chase scene, not quite a full on car chase.
Yeah, because the car's coming beside them, and she looks over, and then the passenger in the back is the guy with the sunglasses, the killer in her vision.
And it's following a hearse.
Yeah, following a hearse. That's right.
I'm kind of learning about this movie again.
It's your movie.
I know. I didn't see it beforehand. I watched it the same as you guys.
I'll be honest, I hope I'm doing justice because I didn't prepare as much because I was like, oh, Michael will walk us through the plot.
No, you know I won't walk you through the plot. Yeah, especially on a film that I'm simple. And so like sometimes I'll get lost in these. And then
by design, these movies are overly complicated.
Yeah, they are, and they're designed to kind of make you.
And that's part of the fun is you get lost in it. Yeah,
and it all becomes like a lot of my favorite giallo become like a dream world kind of a thing. It's like where you're lost in this dream.
It's a hyper reality,
and you turn one corner and think you're going to see one thing, and it's something completely different. And I think I should not have watched both movies back to back.
No, that was probably a mistake.
That was me setting up for disaster for this podcast.
Because the other thing, and I forget, it's one of the male characters that's in this. They're also in high heels.
I thought so. Yeah. I thought they all looked familiar.
Yep.
So the guy in the van, they pull over at some point.
Yep.
And he immediately, he just tries to up and attack her.
He's got the bed in the back.
Yeah, he opens the back of the van, and it's got a bed there, and there's like cutouts of centerfolds up on the side of the van on the inside. And she just kicks him in the balls. Mm-hmm. Yes, she should.
This is the first of 2 ball kicks.
Yes.
The other ball kick I loved.
Yeah.
But a few things happen in the wake of this because she goes back to talk to the police again and the inspector, and because she tries to report the killers in the vehicle following the thing, the one I saw, and we learned that funeral procession was for the victim, and she finally gets a look at like the images of who died and stuff, and she realizes that the victim that was reported is not the victim that she saw. So now we've got this murder that she saw that everyone thinks is this murder that happened, but neither the killer nor the victim are the ones that she saw that were reported.
Makes sense so far, sure.
The next additional detail, which this gets into your thing, Jason, is supposedly this murder happened 6 months ago.
Yes. And
we also learn that through a little more research and digging, I think she gets Gio to help with this some too, and like what's gone in the papers.
Yeah.
We learn they find the woman that she sees in her vision, and supposedly she committed suicide. Was it she laid her head on the train tracks or something?
That's what they said. Yeah, she laid down the train tracks in it.
Because they were going to have to do something to make up for the fact that her face was brutalized by this dude with the gauntlet hands. So yeah, you had to do something. Couldn't be just a normal.
Well, the implication is that person committed suicide.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to do some sort of suicide where the head's gone. You know, you can't just have a hanging or like a wrist slitting. Sorry.
So now we've got 2 killers, 2 victims, 1 killer that may not be the killer, and then it's all mixed up and it gets real hazy.
Yeah, it does. That's one of my complaints about the movie.
We have a few more interesting scenes where like the killer shows up where she is, and there's is it going to happen? Kind of light on kills in a way.
That's also another one of my issues. It really needed some kills during that second act.
Which we find out why when we get into the back end of this, but for the time being, we're now in the thick of it, where she is the most lost, the viewer is the most lost, everything's out of control. There's a bit of subplot with Stefano, like the thing with the kids. He has like a gallery showing coming up that he's nervous about. He's still very wishy-washy about believing her or not. She gets a letter at one point that asks her to come to that apartment where she saw the killing. And she just kind of charges in there.
She just goes, yeah.
And the killer jumps her and attacks her.
Yeah, and there's that cool scene where it was Stefano in her apartment, right across the way.
He's too busy playing on the monkey bars that are built into the apartment.
It's like, that's why you don't put monkey bars in your house. But he doesn't see her. You know, she's yelling. And
he's blasting music too.
Yeah, he's blasting music.
Playing on the monkey bars, blasting music.
She's just, Stefano!
Yeah.
He ain't got time for her shit. So, I got monkey bar business.
Like a lot of other gialli, it kind of plays with the whole Hitchcock themes. Referencing Rear Window and everything.
But that's a near miss, and it's one of those things too where they don't want to believe her, because when he finally gets over there and she gets his attention, the killer's gone, and the only evidence they have is that he kind of punched out one of the locked doors to get in. And so it's one of those things where it's so circumstantial, they can't really determine anything. So where it starts to get even more weird, I think, and more interesting, the Vanessa lady shows back up again.
Yes.
And we get some weird connecting lines where they start talking about how some of these characters that are on the periphery of things have been to Hamburg. And from the police end of the story, we start to learn there's this whole other plot going on about drug trafficking.
Yes.
And so now I'm a little lost. Let me think through this.
Shit, we're gone.
It culminates in that they go to the graveyard, and I think it's that.
Well, she goes to the graveyard because the person at the exhibit center,
because
to like measure out some of the graves for a shoot. Or
someone wanted to commission Stefano to make a tombstone.
Yeah, and Vanessa shows up there. It's like these people know where Valentina is at any given time. I don't know how. Maybe she's got like one of those tags you put in a cat's ear or something. I don't know.
Yeah, so she's at the graveyard trying to help Stefano out and get photos of the grave site so he can make his little wooden
holes.
Be a weird tombstone, right? Because it seems like that wouldn't hold up very well.
Yeah, you would think metal or something.
But so she's there. Vanessa shows up.
Have you seen a tombstone?
Yeah.
Metal tombstones?
Yeah.
They're made of granite and marble.
Sometimes you could do metal too.
Oh, God.
I'm just thinking like the metal with the holes in it would look way cooler than like marble with the holes in it. I that's what I saw in my head. Maybe you don't have that artistic vision, Michael.
I think I quit the podcast.
So she sees Vanessa. They talk a little more. Vanessa thinks that she knows more of what's going on and wants her help to uncover the truth, because she thinks that the person that actually killed her sister is the wrong person, and it's not the guy in the insane asylum.
And someone tries to kill them with a statue.
Yeah, they try to drop a statue on them. And then immediately after that...
I love that scene because, okay, so the statue's like hanging by a rope. Like, they've been working on it, like trying to get it in place or something.
And they linger on it, too.
Yeah. So it shows someone with a knife cutting the rope, and it starts to fall, and Valentina screams, and the other woman just books.
Gone. Yeah.
She is out of there.
Which then it makes you wonder, like, does she know?
Right.
But the doctor from the insane asylum shows up again.
Yes.
And he says
he's
to
also tracking her.
Valentina that Vanessa's crazy and she's having these delusions and not to trust her. So now you have to wonder, is she like concocting all this story and drawing Valentina along? It's just another wrinkle in the pot on all this.
Now is this when Vanessa shows up dead?
No, I think there's some interim where she kind of tries to like get away from everything and she goes out clubbing. There's 2 or 3 scenes like that.
Yeah, that's when she's wearing the wig made of
wind chime wig.
Yeah, trying to hide out.
Very strange.
They're really incidental. They're just fun, like scene building moments. So then I think the next big thing is one of those times when she's partying, the strange guy that's hovering about finally talks to her and says what he...
Oh, the Charles Manson looking dude.
Yeah. Is he Henri, I think, or Pepito? I forget his name.
One of those guys.
They all kind of blend together, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I have names bouncing around from high heels,
it's all
too.
these Italian guys, you know.
Wow, racist.
But he says that he, like, knew Vanessa and her sister and all this, and da-da-da, and he says that he knows who the killer is, and wants Valentina to come with him to, it was like with their estate, right, that they have, and he was going to, like, give her more info.
Right.
Seems like a solid decision for her to make.
Sure.
So in the shake of everything, she ends up going there. There's a weird, like, misdirection, I guess, where they try to make you think that it could be him as the killer, where there's a dead cat.
Yeah.
Very obviously fake dead cat.
Thankfully.
That was a weird scene.
Yeah. And Valentina's repulsed by it, and then Vanessa's there too. And in the end, she goes in, and they reveal to her this photo album, and we learn that the killer that she saw in the vision...
With the
glasses, was Vanessa's sister's manager. She was like an aspiring actress model kind of deal.
Everybody out there got this.
Right. So that's our next drop is like, oh, he is the killer. And so then the assumption is...
I don't know if we're doing a good job selling on Giallo here.
The assumption is that he was like controlling of her, ended up killing her in like fury rage or something.
Uh-huh.
No.
Sure.
I don't know. They're soap operas, man.
No, I mean...
It's supposed to be convoluted.
It's difficult to describe, but it's much more fun to actually watch.
Mm-hmm.
I think these are the type of... Like, when I watch Giallo, I love how convoluted they get. Because I love how lost in the story you get.
Yeah, it just draws you in.
And then if you try to explain it to somebody, like, you're going to have to sit down, I'm going to need to get the string and a whiteboard.
Yeah. So then he shows up with the iron glove. He's there. He's ready. He's coming at him.
Yeah.
There's a bit of a struggle, a bit of altercation. Valentina gets out of there, immediately books it to the police, and is like, hey, I know who the killer is. We figured it all out. The killer's there. We have to go. He's like going to hurt someone. So the inspector comes out full force, brings his people. They head there. And when they get there, there's no killer.
Mm-hmm.
Dun, dun, dun.
And there's no sign of anything. And she's like, well, I can show you the photo album. They go inside.
Picture's gone.
It's been removed. So it kind of dead ends almost, and the only thing you get, her one concession, is that she points out that there are like tire tracks where a vehicle was there and it drove off.
Yes.
And I think that might be when Vanessa dies, right? In the altercation in the house.
I know she's in her car. She's stabbed off screen.
She runs outside and...
there's a knife in her chest, which, again, that's one of my biggest complaints. We need some kills in this movie. There's only like one or two, and they all happen off screen.
As they start running down what actually happened in that murder, that was actually a pretty cool scene.
That was good, and I wanted more of that. I wanted more actual murders with that glove, but we don't get that.
Because it's such a unique murder weapon for a killer.
I think it's also fashioned after the weapon that the guy in Blood and Black Lace had.
Yeah, I can see
it was kind of like a spiked glove type thing.
Cool.
Please continue. I think we're almost to the end.
Yeah, so we're kind of dead-ended now because we think we know the killer. And then there's more of this like drug subplot that starts to take a focus. We get some weird, shady characters that show up.
Yeah. One of them was one of my favorite characters ever.
You can tell that one's been like getting high on his own supply. He kind of just like giggles and laughs.
Yeah. That's the one I like. I think he's Hans.
Yeah, Hans.
He does that all the time.
Yeah, he's great.
And so they're kind of lurking about and being weird and mysterious too now. They're in the mix.
Yeah. And there's that scene where one of them is smoking a cigarette on that big cigarette holder.
Yeah.
And then Gio comes along, again, needing a light. And he just walks up to the guy. He's like, could I get a light? And he puts, holding the cigarette in his mouth, he puts up against the cigarette that the guy has in his cigarette holder. So they're like 6 inches away from each other as he's getting his cigarette lit off the other guy's cigarette.
Why do you have a problem with that, Jason?
It's just so weird and so awkward.
I don't think.
Could you imagine someone coming up to you, some stranger, and...
I used to light my cigarettes without a cigarette holder, and I would just like walk up to dudes and be like, "Hey, can we touch? Can we touch the tips? Yeah. Just the tips. I need a light."
Okay.
And I don't know why it made me think of this, but
good.
One of the like comedy subplot things I really like because it was so goofy is Valentina has like a bellhop that's at the apartment where she stays.
Yes.
And it's this whole thing where she wants milk every day.
Yeah.
And he constantly is like, "Oh, miss, I couldn't get any milk yet. I'll bring you some later."
He does this really funny whistle when he shows up. It's like his "I'm here" whistle. Mm-hmm. And I love it.
Because she does it back to him, too.
Yeah, I want to start doing that every time I come home.
Yeah, we'll see how your wife likes that.
I mean, she's never there, so it's I just whistle to anyone who listens. My dog's like, "He's home!"
So it starts to unravel now, and we get the truth. And what actually was going on is there's this weird drug trafficking ring that was originally based in Hamburg, where a lot of these ancillary characters like Vanessa's sister and the other murdered woman were involved in. Mm-hmm. And they were involved, and they were bringing drugs to... Oh, fuck, it just left my mind. Where's this film set? It's in...
Italy.
Italy. It's Venice, right? No?
It's one of the cities there.
No. It's one of the cities in Italy. It's a city...
Bad podcasting, guys.
It's a city in Europe.
We'll add it in post.
It's the city of...
It's a European city.
Yeah, so you've got this international drug trafficking thing going on, and...
Does it matter, Dustin?
It does matter.
Okay.
Anyways, so what we learn is that there was these murders where they were like killing the people that knew about the drug trafficking to get them out of the way, and in the process of that, they needed to like pin it on someone, and they made the producer manager guy go crazy to want to kill Vanessa's sister, and then they set up the other person to take the blame.
Uh-huh. I mean, it sounds like a foolproof plan to me.
Yeah, it's this convoluted, like, trading murder kind of thing to mask their drug trafficking thing and clean all that out and keep it on the level.
But I think the true payoff, though, is like, so when Valentina, like, basically when these guys are gonna, they gotta get rid of Valentina now.
Right.
Because she knows. And they gotta kill her, but they're kind of toying with her.
Right, they break into her apartment and kind of ambush her.
And they kill the
killer in her dream, in her vision, they kill.
Yeah, they kill. He's laying there on the couch now with a knife in his...
Just like with Vanessa.
Because they want to frame it that she killed him.
Right.
They're trying to get her prints on the blade and everything.
Yeah.
Because that wraps everything up in their like narrative into a nice tight bow
and
where
they're
it's
trying,
like...
They're trying to hang her, like she hanged herself in despair after killing the guy.
So it's like she went crazy, she killed the guy, then she killed herself. Right. And then they like can vanish from the scenario.
Yes.
But I think the fun thing that they do is that like they cut to scenes of Stefano like riding his motorcycle back home, and you think, okay, Stefano's going to get there just in time,
save the day.
He's going to save the day. Stefano gets there, and like she runs to him and like flings herself on him, and his response to the dudes is, "Why haven't you killed her yet?"
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, "Fuck, Stefano!"
I knew Stefano was bad news,
and that's kind of the hook in is that the whole time he knew everything that was going on. Mm-hmm. And was just realizing, like, oh, I'm going to have to kill her. I can't let her live.
I hope those Japanese kids are okay.
I'm sure they're fine.
Hopefully. He does mention that they're going to leave, like,
That's true.
the next day, so...
I kind of want to... Like, I don't want to spend too much more time. But I actually really dug the fight.
The last 15 minutes of this movie are amazing.
Yeah.
I love the rest of this movie.
So Gio shows up. Like, Gio fucking figures it out. Like, almost figures it out.
Well, he goes back to the table where he was getting the light, and they've got, like, it's like a picture of Valentina. Mm-hmm.
And
like,
it's
circled from a magazine. So he's like, oh, these people they're after her, and he runs back. Yeah.
And so he shows up, and I love how he plays it off. Like, he turns into, like, super badass, and I love it. So, like, he's banging on the door, and he's like, I'm going to beat the door down if you don't show up. Like, I know you're in there. I'm going to beat the door down. And so Stefano like tries to go play it cool and everything, opens the door and he's like, yeah, she's in the bath. She can't come talk to you. She's in the bath. Mm-hmm. But Gio notices dead dude on the couch.
Yeah.
But plays it off super like sly and everything. And he's like, he's still got the unlit cigarette in his mouth, which I love.
Yeah.
And he's like patting himself. Do you have a light? And so as Stefano goes to give him a light, Gio like fucking tackles him through the door and turns into a badass and starts beating the shit out of everybody. And this fight kind of...
And it is kind of a charming thing because he is such of like a fuck up the whole film.
Yeah.
But then when the chips are down and you actually need him to do something, he is like resourceful enough to help out.
And I love what he does. He's like, you're going to be in trouble if you don't catch me.
Yeah, he gets Valentina down, and then they're kind of rallying against them, and he just books it and says, "Hey, if you don't catch me and kill me, you're going to be in trouble."
Yeah, so they follow him because clearly he knows what's up now too.
And that giggly blonde dude has a back brace with knives.
Yes. It's awesome. It's kind of
when I first saw it, I was like, "Why is he wearing like backwards body armor?"
It reminded me of Danny Trejo's character from Desperado.
Oh yeah,
where
yeah.
he had like the knife vest, and
Yeah.
like for some reason that was his method of trying to kill everybody, was throwing knives at him.
Not the most efficient method.
No, I mean he killed a lot of people in Desperado.
So
Danny Trejo.
the final like act of this movie is this crazy rooftop brawl.
That's great.
/ chase that goes on.
Yeah, and it's like sloppily choreographed, but almost purposefully because it's like a street brawl. You know,
But
it's
it looks good. And it actually looks good.
Yeah, I mean, you buy it. Yeah,
Feels very natural.
There is a scene, and like I think one of the coolest parts of the fight is Gio's like got the upper hand here, and the dude that he knocks down just fucking kicks him in the balls.
Yeah.
And you don't see that often in a fight. Like he just, and Gio goes down, he's like, oh, you know,
Oh,
it
my
drops.
balls. Yeah.
But it finally, like, that's our kind of culmination.
And there's that scene where he's fighting the blonde dude with the knives, right? And there's, what was that? Was that like lye or something that was on the roof? It was something they were using to make mortar with or something.
He dunks his head in it, man.
Dunks his head in it, and he's like screaming.
Yeah.
And he comes up later, and his face is all white, and he's like red, bleeding from his eyes. I'm like, holy shit, it's the Joker. It's like a Joker origin story. He's got the knives and everything. I want a movie about this guy.
I mean, this really was kind of the most fun part of the movie, was the back.
It was some amazing action I didn't really expect out of this film either.
Yeah, and Stefano's beating up on Gio. He's about to kill him, but then bam.
The
Valentina
super
shoots
cop.
him. No, Valentina shoots him.
Yeah.
Oh,
Valentina
and
shoots
then
Stefano.
super cop shows up and kills
Yeah, the guy with the knives is about to throw his knives at each of them, but then
Yeah.
the cop shows up and shoots him.
Because he, after talking to Gio also on his own and like tracking the drug stuff, he pieces it together too.
Right.
Yeah, and the this little secret drug trade thing is thwarted.
Drugs are bad, kids.
Drugs are bad.
Death Walks at Midnight.
Valentina is saved. Her and Gio kind of have a moment.
And hopefully Gio buys a fucking lighter.
Yeah.
No, him not having a lighter is what saved his ass.
I think
the whole
by
time.
law in Italy, if someone asks you for a light, you have to give them a light. You know, even if it's like your mortal enemy, you're in a dangerous situation, you have to give.
It's like a
light.
parlay.
Right. Parlay.
You have to parlay.
Right.
So that's the film. I think we all, regardless of thoughts, we all thought it was super fun. I think.
Yeah, I had a good time.
One of the
with
big
it.
takeaways. But what if we want to go deeper? I guess into more of our finalized thoughts.
Yeah, sure.
Do you want to talk about that?
I'll go first.
Does anyone have any other fun facts or anything for the film? or-
Let me double check.
Let me check my research that I brought.
You didn't bring no research.
I've got two. Apparently, in some other regions, it had a different name, and it was called "Cry Out in Terror."
That's lame.
Don't like that name.
No.
Doesn't
Doesn't sound like a giallo.
Just a fun connection. There's a Rolls Royce that features prominently in Death Walks on High Heels, and they reused the same vehicle in Midnight.
Oh, Vanessa's cool ride. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a sweet car.
That's pretty fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think this. I would not recommend this as entry level.
Oh, hell no.
giallo. I think this
No.
is like maybe secondary.
Yeah.
You know, second tier. I like it overall. I think the second act really needed some kills.
Yeah.
That's
That's my biggest criticism about it.
It sags too much for me.
Because what I wrote down for a thing to remember is like the actual kill we see with the Iron Glove is amazing.
Yeah.
That's like one of the best kills I've seen in any
It
giallo.
needed more of that.
And there needed to be more.
It
Yeah.
was fucking brutal, man. Like, they actually showed dude just wailing.
Yeah, yeah.
And he just like destroys her face.
And I'm thinking, yeah, okay, more of that, please. Yes, and you don't get it. It's very disappointing. But the last 15, 20 minutes are really fun and really exciting. And that brought it back up for me.
How do you guys feel about the sort of twist reveal of like the truth behind everything?
It didn't matter.
Didn't matter.
It really didn't matter at that point.
So here's my thing about this, because we wanted to talk about the drugs for a second, and I'll loop this back in before we wrap up. So she takes these drugs. She has this vision. Supposedly it's from a thing from 6 months ago. So the question is, did she get extrasensory perception
Right.
or not?
Yeah, that's my issue.
And my thought is they float this idea for a little bit, but they don't really explore it enough. And I know other gialli have done this, but it's just like one throwaway line. They talk about like, well, maybe it was something she had seen before, and the drugs kind of brought it back up to her memory.
Okay.
And so I thought about, like, part of the reason with the end when they hook everything in, Stefano, like, helped find her apartment that she lives in. And the reason he picked that one is because it was across from the other one where they staged the murder. And it was so he could, like, survey that other apartment and keep tabs on it and what was going on there.
Okay, so maybe she saw the murder happen.
So my maybe theory I'm going to toss out here is that she saw that murder happen, forgot about it, which is a typical gialli plot, and then it was the drugs that brought that memory back up to the surface.
Okay.
Sure.
Which does set off the whole chain of events that they had to kill her.
I'll buy that
cover it up.
before a psychic vision type thing. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, just a thought.
That works.
I mean, it's not like I can say that, that's too far-fetched. Because the rest of this movie is definitely...
We don't know enough about the drug to really say too much, because all we get is like, oh, it's a hallucinogenic, so...
Right.
Who knows?
I don't buy that it's... There's nothing about this that tells me it's supernatural, though.
No, I don't think so
I
either.
don't buy that at all. Yeah. I don't have anything, deep thoughts about it.
Jason, final thoughts.
Yeah. It's a fun movie. It's like I say, the second act is lags. If it had more kills, I would rate it higher.
Yeah.
But man, that last 15 minutes. That was
so much fun.
That came back alive. And I wanted more of that blonde dude with the knives. I'm like, where's his movie? I want to see this guy's story. I think final rating, I would probably give it 3.5.
Okay.
So I liked it. It was good, but it just didn't have enough oomph to really get to that 4-star rating.
Jason's sitting about where I am
on
it, and I maybe lean more towards the 4. I had a lot of fun with it. I almost view it as I almost think I liked it more because I watched it in conjunction with Death Walks on High Heels, because it's almost like...
I think it's an amazing double feature.
Yeah, you kind of get these two different sides of Valentina.
And she's great. She carries the movie.
Yeah.
I think if it wasn't for her, and Gio too, the actor who played him, that second act, I probably would have tuned out, to be honest with you.
So I think Jason's dead on. This is not an entry-level giallo. If somebody's like, well, recommend me a good giallo film to start with, this is not one that I would be like...
No.
This is after you've watched a couple and you want to branch out.
This is advanced studies.
And that's one of the reasons that I chose this film, because I wanted to go past the main directors that we always see.
The obvious one, sure.
And I think this one is pretty highly rated in general, right?
It is, yeah. It's well liked. But I wanted to scoot past, we don't need to sit here and talk about Argento.
Right.
We don't need to talk about Bava.
We don't need to.
We
can.
Yeah, we can. But those are the ones I'm going to tell you to go watch if you want to see Giallo. That you've never seen it,
which we name dropped a lot of those in our Fifth Chord episode,
right? But I wanted to look for somebody that was a classic giallo director that it doesn't get thrown out a lot. There's a lot of these films that are within the same vein,
right? That
are forgettable. I don't want to say this is forgettable, but it very well could be. If you watch a ton of these, you're probably not going to remember it. So I'm going to sit at 3.5. I'm really happy I watched it. This will probably be one of those that I flex my my giallo brain with.
Your nerd knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, I'll say, bless Arrow for restoring this movie and High Heels, because it looks great. Amazing. I quite liked it, maybe a little more than you guys. I think I would give it a 4.
Okay.
I noticed I tend to be really forgiving on Giallo, because as long as it was enjoyable and entertained me, I'm like, yes, I love it. Great. Sure. Does the twist and the play out of everything make perfect sense? No, not quite. But there's a part in the middle of it. I think it's when it gets suggested that Vanessa might be crazy. At that point, you're so deep, and there's so many who it could be things that I just love it, because you're so lost at that point. And Valentina is lost. You're lost. You're just in this dreamlike world where there's a killer and something's going on, but you have no clue what it is.
Right. You're just as lost as the protagonist. Right?
Jason, you're absolutely right. There should be more kills. That's the biggest criticism I could give it. If it just had 1 or 2 more, I think it would be so much more solid.
Yeah.
But I think the problem is that we know that the killer that she sees is on this kind of set up revenge quest thing. So there's no real impetus for him to want to kill anyone other than
Sure.
the
but
directly
the
connected.
other people want to kill people, so you just show them off screen. You don't show the person's face. You just show the black gloves approaching this person.
That would have been maybe the answer to squeeze that in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the end, I give it about a 4. Quite liked it.
Well, we're on the same area.
And I would give the same score to High Heels. I also liked it a ton.
I'll have to watch it.
I liked it for different reasons. I will say, like, Midnight, I think, is the better composed as like a complete package. High Heels is kind of bonkers,
It
to
is
be
bonkers,
honest.
man.
And it's the only way I can think to describe it. It's a very horny film.
Yeah,
like there is
yeah.
so much like sexual innuendo in it, and just like eroticism baked in, which is a trope that sometimes is often in gialli.
Horny Giallo, you said.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
You had me at horny.
So definitely get around to that, Jason.
Okay. Will do.
All right, so I think that wraps us up on this one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, who's next?
So next we're going to have Jason's pick for our continuing Giallo January celebration.
Speaking of horny Giallo,
Uh-oh.
now you've seen this, Dustin. I don't think Michael's seen
Probably
it.
not.
But we're going to do, from 1987, director Lamberto Bava, Delirium.
I have seen Delirium.
God,
You've
yes.
seen Delirium.
Yes.
We actually
Okay.
watched
We
that
watched
together.
it together.
Do you look forward to watching it again?
I do, because it's batshit.
It
Yep.
is. It's so much fun. It's one of the sleazier
Oh,
gialli.
yeah.
So,
It gets fucking weird.
yeah. And it's underseen. I never hear anyone really talk about this movie.
This is one you probably want to watch alone.
No, you watch it
No.
with a group of friends and beers.
A group of understanding friends.
Right.
So we're okay if you take a few moments.
I'm glad you picked this, though, because this is super fun.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Yeah,
Where could people watch it if they want to play along?
I'm looking that up right now. And
You didn't
unfortunately,
have it? God, what a lame-ass
We are starting the
podcaster.
year off wrong, man. Just
well, we can edit this shit.
It's like, yeah, I can, you can't. You never learned to do it.
Shut up.
will Michael be gracious enough to?
Will he? Or won't he?
He will. He's my bud.
Where did we watch? Didn't we watch it on Prime before?
I had the blue.
I have the DVD. Well, can we use your blue? I'll just have the regular DVD.
Yeah.
I'm looking. Unfortunately, there's like a tons of movies called Delirium.
I think one just came out like this year, last year too. So
Okay. It is not available for streaming. Sorry.
Jason.
Well, I bet it's probably on the YouTubes or something.
It probably is on the YouTube.
Or it's on Amazon. You can actually buy it probably.
Michael's out.
You gotta pay for it?
Okay, so
Next Delirium.
time, Delirium, Lamberto Bava. Find it wherever you can, and watch it along with us if you'd like, so you can join us on the conversation. As always, thank you so much for tuning in and listening. We're so excited for this year. I got a lot of fun things planned. Hopefully more to reveal soon. If you listen to our last end of the year episode, you kind of know what we're up to. But hopefully we can get that rolling out very soon and interact with you guys even more. So please, if you have a recommendation for us, whether it be a film to watch, or if you think you might have a block of films that you think we should check out, or a
topic.
we should check out, send that to us. You can always catch us on all your favorite socials, or you can send us email if you're old, genreexposure@gmail.com.
I await every night in the tower for the Raven. It's not coming.
No, I don't think so. We're probably just going to get a pigeon. Nobody's going to send a raven. We just get a pigeon.
Okay.
I'll take a pigeon.
Until then, you've been listening to Genre Exposure, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal, providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.